guys, welcome to episode 2 of the Galaxy's Greatest. John's let me take over a little bit this week, so let's get into it. A little bit of an announcement before we start. We've opened up a Discord for you guys to jump into and chat to us and even play games with us. The link will be down in the description. If you have any problems, drop us comments in the comments section, but we hope to see you there. Hi John, how we doing?
Yeah, not bad, thank you, mate. Looking forward to doing a deep dive into Kingpin, Criminal Syndicate, because I've got, spoiler alert, I've got Kingpin and M.O.D.O.K, and Klaw as well as leaders, but we'll go a bit more into it. But yeah, looking forward to it, and looking forward to going into some games. I've just come back from Ireland and went to a 32-man event. Yeah, looking forward to it.
It sounds good. So let's kick off with your characters then, John.
Cool.
You mentioned Klaw and M.O.D.O.K. I'm interested to see the other 10.
Yeah, so I'll go through the list and then I'll explain a little bit of them. So yeah, I've got Kingpin there, I've got Echo, I've got Loki 2, Black Cat, Spectrum, M.O.D.O.K 2, Taskmaster, Klaw, Okoye, and then Mysterio. So yeah, starting from Kingpin, obviously everyone who has played against me knows that I like to just roll as little dice as possible, sit on points, and score a lot of points. So Kingpin just works perfectly for my sort of game plan. Yeah, I always take him unless it's a super attrition heavy game, or it's on pay to flips where M.O.D.O.K will potentially come out. Especially on pay to flips anyway. The super attrition teams I might still take Kingpin, depending obviously what my opponent's going to take, because I can go a bit taller with Loki and Klaw being 5 threats. And then Echo, I mean, this is one that me and Ollie can both share our love about, because she's a criminal syndicate, but she's also a defender.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Yeah, she's so good, and she's just another long move. Again, if anyone knows my game plan, I like to have a lot of long moves, which is quite ironic taking Kingpin, because he's like one of the slowest characters out there, but I think it works really, really well when you've got quite a few long moves in there, like Echo, Spectrum, Black Cat, Loki. So you can very easily go Kingpin, then a load of long movers, which yeah, just works his game plan really well. I feel. Oh, sorry, Karen.
I was going to say the advantage of Echo is she's a wall crawler, which obviously Black Cat doesn't have.
Yeah.
So Echo is incredibly mobile, which is fantastic for your list if she's trying to escape with an extract.
Yeah, definitely. I've always felt, you probably feel the same, I always feel her crits work much better in attacking than defending, because sometimes you can either skull lock yourself, or if they roll like 5 crits into her, there's only so many crits that she can actually convert.
Yeah, definitely. She gets better with more dice. So she's very good in places where they can boost her dice. But I think it makes her very consistent. It's very hard to spike Echo unless they're rolling way too many dice for her to handle. She's normally not dying to a single attack.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And as people know, Kingpin just loves the characters which can just survive quite a few hits. Quite tanky characters. So yeah, and then we go into my favourite 5 threats at the moment is Loki 2. I think he really gels this whole team together. I generally try to take him as much as possible. One, because he's just so good, and he obviously, if you're getting attacked by a lot of characters with 4 or 5 health, well, obviously essentially 5 health, just being able to pity them twice in their own activation, it takes 40% of their health off just with him paying 2 power, can obviously be very, very crippling. Also, I don't think he essentially needs all of his power a lot of the time, so I've had it a lot of times where when I use all according to plan, he's essentially the one which is paying for like 80% of it. because you can generally go with him first if you need to kill someone or do something. And yeah, he can very easily get that power back.
Yeah, Loki's very good in your style of roster because I suppose he's also got the place, so he can move some of your slower characters around, like Mysterio or Kingpin.
Yeah, 100%. Also, I quite like using the place on Klaw, because if you place a character off a deployment who's in line with the midline, Claw can move once onto the midline and be on the point, so he gets an attack and still counts as two on a secure, which is really really good. And then we go into Black Cat, who's, I mean, you don't really need to say too much about Black Cat. She's just very very strong, very good. Where you can't explode crits or mod into her, she survives a lot. She gives out a lot of staggers, which is essential in the Kingpin roster because you want to get attacked as little as possible. So her being able to give out, two staggers in an activation can just cripple your opponent. Also, as well, if she takes a lot of damage quite early on, she can obviously just steal an extract and get out of there as well, just to keep the points um, getting more and more in your favour. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Black Cat?
Black Cat's frustrating for a lot of teams to deal with because obviously she can't be spiked. You can't use dice consistency into her, so she can be really difficult to deal with. And if you leave her alive, she can stagger you and walk away, which
Yeah,
some characters just hate. So she's definitely one of those characters where you have to bring the right tools to deal with her.
yeah, I
Um,
completely agree.
and even if you do, she can still be frustrating.
Yeah,
She's fantastic in your list because you can kind of dive with her round one and not have to worry about her just getting one shot.
yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, having her, Loki, and Echo, well, and Spectrum actually, which can all backdive. Depending obviously who I'm playing against, I won't necessarily do that against attrition heavy teams, but against scenario focused teams, it is just super super strong. Even if you go up by 1 or 2 points round one, and then you sort of bring them back onto your own points, and you keep going, say 4-4, but you're 2 points ahead, you can just obviously win off that, which is really good. And then yeah, we get onto Spectrum, which is recently. Well, I've been ever since she's been out. I've sort of been playing around with her, but she's just very very strong on this team. Again, it's another long move, and yeah, I think one of the main problems Kingpin has is if Kingpin goes down on points, it's very very hard to get the points even again, or to have, especially later on around when quite a few of your characters are dazed, because yeah, Kingpin's plan sort of falls on its face when most of your team are injured because they can't just sit on points. You actually have to fight. So Spectrum brings that into this team, where characters like Taskmaster or Echo, which, I mean, yeah, if Echo double taps on, she's doing a lot of damage, but if she can only get one attack in, same as Taskmaster, just bumping their dice up by two is just really, really powerful and really strong. Especially Echo's Bullseye, where they can't mod, so turning that into 6 dice, not being able to mod is really good. Again, with Taskmaster, with his Spender, if they've got, say, 4 physical defense, it can turn into a 10 dice attack with no mods, which is just super, super strong. So yeah, she sort of fits the game plan pretty well. And then we go into my second leader, which is M.O.D.O.K. Yeah, so he comes out. I've got, well, I'll talk about it a bit later, but M.O.D.O.K and Klaw come out on sort of niche. Um, they come out under Kingpin, but under sort of more niche games, which I'll go on to a little bit later. But he's very, very good again on sort of, well, I say very good on pay to flips. He's okay on pay to flips, but he's better than better than Kingpin. Um, but his leadership is much better, I think, with this list than the likes of Shadowland Daredevil, because I think Shadowlands wants a completely different list to what Kingpin wants, whereas M.O.D.O.K very much wants the same characters. So M.O.D.O.K would want Black Cat, Taskmaster, and Echo, whereas Shadowland would want some rapid fire characters, some more gun lines. So yeah, he fits my list a bit better.
I suppose the benefit of M.O.D.O.K is M.O.D.O.K has an impact a lot of the time in the game. Shadowland, if he's out of position, can be difficult to reposition, whereas M.O.D.O.K can sit from afar and still have an impact.
Yeah, definitely, and I think as well with the leadership turning, if you're on a secure or holding an extract and you get a wild, turning another dice into a shield or a hit works super strong with the likes of Black Cat, where you can't mod into her, so she's even more tanky. With Spectrum on her defense, where obviously if she gets reverse pierce, so she's essentially um, on one wild, she's essentially blocking three. Um, so yeah, it works really well with them characters, and even as like on attack as well. So taking M.O.D.O.K and Spectrum, bumping people's dice up, then it just becomes the M'Baku Wakanda nonsense where you're just dishing out lots and lots of damage. So yeah, he comes out on pay to flips and on very sort of niche games.
Speaking of Wakandan nonsense, I can see you've got Okoye. What's Okoye doing in the list over, say, Bullseye?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I have probably played a lot of games with Bullseye. Um, I mean, you'll see it later when I go through my games, but a lot of the time on 17th threat, I'll go a 4 threat, a 5 threat, 2 3 threats, and a 2 threat. And Bullseye just generally wasn't doing too much for me. You could throw him an extract using Kingpin's leadership, and he could sit on a point. But I've felt very much that as soon as someone charges him or sits on his point, he just falls apart and dies. And I mean, the parting shot's nice, but obviously Kingpin's shtick is very much sit on point. So if someone charges onto his point, you don't necessarily want to run off that point, if that makes sense. So yeah, I haven't really been rating Bullseye for a while. So I was sort of thinking about what other 2 threat I could bring, and I've always wanted to bring Sacrifice, which again we'll get back into when I get to my tactics cards. But I've got Indom and Patch up there, and I really feel like some games I very much need Sacrifice. So Okoye is like a nice bodyguard that I can bring in to keep other characters alive, and yeah, I think she just fits my list a lot better than Bullseye does. Um,
She's definitely very durable. The count blanks and the re-roll can be really good, and especially if she can intercept hits for some of your more important characters.
yeah, that's it, definitely. Keeping her with, say, Klaw or Kingpin just makes them a lot more tanky if they're holding an extract. And also, as well, sometimes I can sort of get Prio back by not activating her and just letting her daze, so I don't have to spend 10 power on all according. So I can sort of do it 2 ways, which can be quite good. And then yeah, going to Taskmaster. I really like Taskmaster. I think he's very solid, very strong. Again, he's tanky for Kingpin's leadership, who what Kingpin wants. Also, as well as I mentioned, he can be very strong with Spectrum. We'll go into it a little bit more into detail on one of my games from Ireland, but yeah, he's just very good against teams that sort of bubble up and sort of have lots of defensive rerolls, and adding 2 dice to his dice can just be very crippling for the opponent. And then we go into Klaw. So I've there's a couple of questions bit later I think about Klaw, but I really rate him. I think he's very good. Don't get me wrong, he's not the best 5 threat. If you try to sort of think about King T'Challa, Red Skull 2, them kind of 5 threats, even Loki, he isn't up there. But again, he comes out on niche matchups, and his tactics card, which we'll go into a bit later, is very good now. And then stun before damage, as Ollie knows, playing Spider Woman a lot, can be very crippling, and it's very very strong.
Oh yeah, it's a fantastic ability. Being able to, especially as he's got suppressive as well. So
Yeah,
if he stuns you, you're only gaining one power, and then he steals it off you anyway. It can be quite restrictive on how much damage you can do back into him.
yeah, I completely agree. He's very good, and obviously being able to obviously he's got 3 physical, 5 energy, and 3 mystic. But if you don't one shot him or double tap him with physical or mystic, he's got ways of healing himself. So he can be quite durable, and a lot of people forget that he's got the superpower. I can't remember what the name is, but if you end an activation within 3 of him, he can just push you away, which again works well under Kingpin. If you put 2 people on his point to think that you're drawing it, and he's just like, nope, this is my point. So he can be very good like that as well.
He's definitely a menace, and I suppose should we go into a little bit of tech with him? He's very good into some of the kind of meta pieces at the moment, or kind of incoming meta pieces in Doctor Strange and Sentinels, isn't he?
Yeah, so yeah, we can go into that a little bit at the moment. So yeah, both him and M.O.D.O.K are pretty decent into M.O.D.O.K a little bit less, but the main reason I've got Klaw on my list is because of the Strange Defenders. Strange is quite, in our meta here, people play him a lot in Defenders and Midnight Suns. And yeah, everyone knows that Kingpin and his whole team don't want to be pushed or placed off points or anything like that. So the fact he can't be pushed by energy attacks or enemy superpowers makes him very, very good into Doctor Strange and into Sentinels. So he can just sit on a point against them and he's okay. The same with M.O.D.O.K. M.O.D.O.K's is a little bit worse just because he can't be pushed or advanced by mystic attacks. So that obviously doesn't include Sentinels or Strange, but he's still got the same thing where he can't be um, pushed with superpowers. So that works against the Sentinels. So yeah, I think just having 2 characters in my team that can just sit on a point and not worry about like Gwen or the Sentinels or anyone being able to pull them off a point is quite strong. So yeah, they're there for sort of niche games, but they're very very strong at them games, I think.
Especially as both are relatively hard to take off points. I know Claw has 3 physical and mystic defenses, but he's still 7 health, and you don't want to finish within 3 if you don't kill him because he will just push you away. M.O.D.O.K can obviously have people intercept the hits. If you can throw someone like Taskmaster or Mysterio or Okoye in the way, he's again quite hard to remove.
Yeah, definitely. And again, I think that's a good thing about Okoye being there. So Okoye can detect if I do take Claw and Okoye at the same time, she can sort of follow him about, let him take a couple of hits, and then when a big hit comes in and he's like a bit low on health, she can just bodyguard it, and then he can activate, heal himself, and then just try to kill whatever attacked her in the first place, or again just push them off as well. So yeah, and then Mysterio is there mainly for the Grand Illusion, to be honest. If you've ever played against Mysterio and Loki 2 both together, it is complete nonsense. He just turns Loki into an even more killing machine. Um, so yeah, he's mainly there for Grand Illusion. Just in case I do get into the more attrition matchups, which Kingpin doesn't like. But yeah, that's my 10.
Interesting. So obviously there's you've got a reason for taking a lot of these characters. Is there any characters that you want to give a kind of a special mention to that you've played in the past that if you had an 11th or a 12th slot would sneak into those slots?
Well, not necessarily that I've played, but so Mysterio's in my I've changed I've changed the list a couple of ways already, but so this is the list I took to Ireland. But Mysterio, I'm going to change for Ironmonger. Give him a go. Ironmonger's not actually out in my local gaming store at the moment, which is why I didn't take him to Ireland, unfortunately. But yeah, he just looks very very good, very strong. Another character that can steal. So yeah, I'd say Mysterio would change for Ironmonger. I think the only other one which like sort of well, there's two actually which sort of reach out to me. The first is Prowler. I do really really like Prowler, um, but I think there isn't enough space in my list for having another four threat. Because as I said, whenever I run 17, I like to have a five threat, and obviously my lead is four threat. So if you did take two four threats and a five threat, you're at 13 already. Um, and unless I bought two threats, I wouldn't be able to go five wide at 17, which I quite like doing. I quite like going seven wide, five wide at 17, and then six wide at 20. So yeah, I just don't feel like I've got enough space for another four threat. But I do really really like Prowler. I do really rate him. The other one is Rhino. Um, so yeah, I think Rhino's damage completely went down when the throw change happened. So I don't really rate like just the way I play. I do accept he is a very very good character, but the way I play, I don't potentially want him or need him. Um, I feel like a lot of people can sort of put a few hits into him and he can just go down like a sack of spuds sometimes, especially against Mystic. Um, so yeah, I used to play him a lot, and a lot of times, you'd put him into a position where he's scoring on their back point round one, or round two, and then the other round, like the later rounds, he just gets completely wiped out. Obviously, the this is a robbery is still very very good. It's obviously gone up to five power or four power, but five if you want to pick up the extract. And it used to obviously be much better if you did it against the size four. Um, or I'm pretty sure it works against size five as well. I can't remember. Um,
Yeah, I can't remember if it's got a size to it, but just being
yeah,
able to get something off Dormammu is such a great ability without having to daze him.
definitely. And I think as well, being able to throw Dormammu into another character, and you used to be able to do 6 damage into that other character was just very very strong. Whereas now it's just an innate 3, so it's not as good. So yeah, I'd say they're the three. So I'm going to try out Ironmonger, and then yeah, Rhino and Prowler. I would like to have space in my list, but again, I don't think I've got enough space for another four threat.
Makes sense. I know we've got a few questions on characters later on from lots of different people. Is there anything else you want to cover at the moment, or should we move on to tactics cards?
Yeah, I think just move on to tactics cards because I can go over a little bit other characters when I go through my Irish games, because then I can obviously go into a bit more detail about why I picked certain characters, and yeah, we can go into that. So yeah, go into the tactics cards. Cool. So yeah, so my tactics cards are all according to plan. Patch up, Indomitable, Recalibration Matrix, Giant's Blood, Going All Out, Supersonic Annihilator, Cruelty, The Grand Illusion, and No Mercy. So, all according to plan. I think if you're running Kingpin and you don't have this in your list, there's something seriously going wrong. It is such a good card. It can just be very, very crippling to your opponent. Whether you play it super aggro, where you daze someone and then you use auto recording just to kill them, can be very, very good. Or just running a character into the corner who's got lots of extract. A lot of extract can be very good as well. Um, yeah, it can just be a very, very good card. Also, as well, um, you play. When you play your games, you your opponent will know they've got prio, so they might set up certain characters in a position so when they've got prio they can act on it. And then if you take the prio away, it can just really set, just ruin your opponent's game plan really. Was there anything else you want to say about all according? So I know you you don't like the card very much.
I dislike the card a lot, but I think it's something interesting that Crims have compared to everybody else. It's something that makes them unique, definitely. I think the interesting thing is you often see a lot of people burning power on characters and then kind of, especially after they've dazed and losing out on kind of the power they've generated. I notice you use it very differently. Obviously, you said about burning Loki's power, but you'll often not burn it so that you have no power. You'll make sure that you've got power on characters to use them. So that's right.
Yeah, definitely. I'll burn it to the point where either one character, one like very specific character needs to do something, so I'll keep the power on them, but then burn it with other people. Or as I said, a lot of the time I'll spend, use 80% of the power for, on Loki, because Loki can just either go first and get the power back relatively easy or relatively quickly. But yeah, I quite like to have power, especially. I think one of the mistakes I see people use is they use all of Kingpin's power. Um, I always like to try to keep Kingpin on at least one power, so when he does get targeted, he can spend that power to not take damage. I see a lot of people leave him on 0, which can make him quite vulnerable, especially on that first attack. But yeah, I think it's very important to try to work out what your plan is using all according, who you want to sort of use, go with, and your game plan for the other characters that you've not, you've used all the power up. As I said, I think it's perfect with Loki being there and spending most of it on him. And then we go into Patch Up and Indomitable. Again, these are just my two favourite restricted with Kingpin, but Sacrifice and Fallback can very much be there as well. Brace, you don't really see in many people's lists anymore, which I'm absolutely loving. Although there's been a few games recently where I've completely forgotten Brace even exists, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to throw you into this. No, and they've got 1 health left, and I'm like, right, they're dazed. I'm going to pick up the extract, and they're like, okay, I'll brace it. I'm like, oh yeah, brace is still a thing, but you don't see it very often, which is really nice. So yeah, patch ups I think very very important with Kingpin, because there's quite a lot of characters on my list with 7 health. So you've got M.O.D.O.K, Kingpin, Klaw, and Loki off the top of my head with his 7 health. Then you've got Spectrum who's got 6. And I mean, even like Black Cat and people like that, it's very important with patch up. So there's plenty of options for patch up.
Yeah, doing a lot of damage into Black Cat. You leave her on 1, and then they go, oh, I'm going to spend 4 and heal her back, and you think, I'm not going to kill her now.
Yeah, 100%. I've even had a few games recently where Okoye's took 3 damage, and I patch her up just so the person next to her won't get double tapped by someone, or they won't be able to deal with Okoye easily and then take the other person out. So yeah, patch up's very very strong in this list. Indomitable is just amazing in this list again. Kingpin just wants to sit on points, so being able to use that, it's both good defensively and, well, yeah, I was going to say defensively and offensively. What I mean by that is, it's good that characters can't push you away from points, but also characters like Strange or Sentinels can't pull you into their team either, so you can stop that from happening, which is really good. So yeah, Indom's sort of a staple there. Recalibration Matrix, again, Kingpin's main game plan is to keep everyone on their healthy side, so Recal can really, really help that out. It can just stop a massive spike and someone dying. It's also very, very good with Loki, because if they roll 1 or 2 skulls in their initial roll, that's already 2 blocks for Loki. So if you recal it they might get 1 or 2 extra. Then he's blocking 4 without his dice. So yeah, Recal's just very very strong with Loki. I also sometimes like to use it with Black Cat, quite weirdly. So if she's only got, I don't know, 1 health left, and they've got 1 success from their dice, and I've got 0, using Recal, so they obviously can't mod their dice, so their 1 still happens, and then I can just re-roll all 3 of my dice as long as I don't get a skull. That can be quite cute. It can obviously, keep her alive in a very important situation. So yeah, Recal's really, really good.
Another one that you and I have done in the past is doing it on Echo's Bullseye.
Yeah.
I know there's a game on the channel where I needed to kill your Okoye and I recalled on Bullseye. So that's another thing you can do where you can kind of pay for recal but not let your opponent get the benefit of it.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it is quite good with them characters. Do you ever use it
Taskmaster.
on? Yeah, definitely Taskmaster
As well. Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say, do you ever use it on Bast? Because I think he's the only other character which is in your list that you can't mod into.
I tend to use it defensively, so obviously if they're spiking into me,
Yeah,
Bast doesn't like that because he can't get them to re-roll. But
yeah,
if they roll poorly and I roll poorly, then sometimes I will.
yeah,
I think it really depends on who's going into it. It's normally I'm using it on characters where you're getting like blanks and you've rolled poorly, like a Daredevil or an Iron
yeah,
Fist,
definitely.
where you kind of your average should be way higher. And I suppose in your kind of squads, you're bringing characters that can take advantage of that through not Echo so much, but like Kingpin can obviously pay to reduce, and he's got a bigger physical defense pool than most people.
Yeah,
Loki likes it on the skulls. Okoye again is probably the same because she counts blanks. So if they're going to one shot Okoye, she can spend. I think it's probably a waste on a 2 threat, but sometimes you need it.
I think if she's on a injured side and you still feel like you need a bodyguard, it can be quite good. But yeah, I've same as you probably. I've had plenty of times where I've used Recal and they've even done more damage or exactly the same, and you're just like, oh.
Yeah, it can backfire, but I think the potential of recal is often worth taking. I think
100%.
When you pull it and they don't get it, it's not you've made a mistake. It's just the dice are saying no. But sometimes, a lot of the time, it will work out for you. But it's confirmation bias, isn't it? You remember the bad times, you don't remember the good times out of it.
Yeah, definitely. You might have 9 really, really good recals and then 1 terrible one, and you're just like, oh, it's not worth it. But yeah, recal's amazing. I could potentially see it maybe going to restricted, but that's another complete topic because I feel like it's probably took the most out of everyone's list. But yeah, that's definitely another topic. But so yeah, we've got Giant's Blood next. This is a must take with Loki. I think it's just so good, so crippling for your opponent. Especially sometimes what I'll do is round 1 Loki double moves onto their back point, whether it's a Scoundrel or Infinity or something like that. And then they sometimes have to put 2 characters or even 3 characters on that point just to sort of either draw it or win the point. And then the next round, I can go with Loki first. I can do an attack, hopefully get the crit wild on his builder, and then I can use Giant's Blood, give everyone in that within 2 of him root and slow, and then I can just get myself out of there. I've already gone up on points because he's either drawn it or they've obviously had to put 3 characters around there to win it, but then around the other, like the board, I've probably won the other side with an Echo or Black Cat. So I've already gone up on points, and now I've just root and slowed 3 of his characters. So yeah, I think Giant's Blood is essential when you bring Loki. Yeah, I know you've had a few bad games against Giant's Blood, haven't you?
Yeah, it's a really versatile card because you can use it offensively through his spender, where you walk them in. I mean, you can even do it off the builder, but the spender is probably the best time because
Yeah,
you've got people around you. The other time is obviously you can use it offensively, where defensively, where your opponent comes diving in on Loki for some reason, and he
Yeah.
just escapes. Um, Obviously, you drop all extracts, but I think in your list you very rarely give extracts to Loki unless there's a specific reason because of Giant's Blood.
Yeah, definitely. I think I spend both of Loki's power round one a lot of the time on go forth. Whether it's I waddle up with Kingpin round one to pick up a midpoint, whether it's like the middle left point or a side point, I can obviously get him out of danger. Or I can use it more offensively, like on a Klaw or something where I place them two up and then double move Loki. So I'd normally use his power up on go forth round one. So I don't normally pick up an extract on him. Um, but also as well, what I forgot to mention is another character that I've been trying out in this list is Moon Dragon with the Mind Gem, and I did, I played. I can't remember who I played. I think it was Ford, the X Force player, but yeah. So Moon Dragon just made it so easy um, for Loki. She could just move someone within two of him, and then he could just use Giant's Blood and then just root and slow everyone there, which is just really really strong. So she's very very effective of making it work really well.
Just the other time you can play it is during Kingpin's turn because it's any movement, isn't it? So you can throw people into
Exactly.
range of
Yeah.
Loki and then root them. Is it root and slow, isn't it? So they struggle to come back.
Yeah, 100%. Or if you're being very greedy, which essentially could work sometimes, is if you do an area attack, as Ollie said, it's probably the best way in his own activation of doing it. But if your area attack hits three or four people, I mean, I've never pulled it off, but you could, if you deal damage to all of them, you could wait till the fourth, move them all within two of you, wait till you've done it to the fourth character, move him, and then you've just got four characters rooted and slowed. So, yeah,
Into some teams it can be disgusting. I mean, into web warriors especially, like making it so that web swing is harder for them and they can't move their normally faster speeds can really slow down their game plan.
yeah, I've done it quite often to a Gwen, and yeah, I don't think we get much um, sort of feeling sorry for Gwen because she's a nightmare. But yeah, so that's Giant's Blood. Going All Out is sort of a newish card, but I don't think I've actually used in an actual game. But essentially, it's there for Spectrum's card. Um, Let me just get it up on my phone because I can't remember exactly what it
So
does.
it's she pays two, I believe. She gets to place range two. Then every attack she makes for the rest of the round, she gets the same ability as Echo Spender, so you don't count crits and they can't explode.
Yeah, so she just turns into a killing machine, especially if you're playing against like Webs or Shield or something like that, where they really count on their rerolls. She can just turn into a killing machine. But I feel like Going All Out is more. It's obviously definitely more of an offensive team tactics card, and it's probably if it's not going too well for you and you just need to kill people, which is why I don't think I've actually took it in any games because yeah, I like to sit on points and not really hit too many people. Um, but yeah, it's in there because I feel like with this list, there's four or five cards that you're taking more or less every single game, depending obviously who you've got in your team. But yeah, so the other ones don't really matter too much. Um, and then we go into Supersonic. Oh, sorry, carry on.
I was going to say it's nice having a toolbox option, isn't it? If you've got locks in, sometimes you need another option. I suppose that's what your eighth, ninth, and 10th card is. You're not taking them every game, but they're
Yeah,
useful in a
100%.
certain amount of scenarios. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So yes, so for me, going all out cruelty and no mercy, I don't really take too often at all. It's always the other ones. So all according, patch up, Indom, and Recal are normally the four, and then if I've got Loki, which is normally most of the time, I just take Giant's Blood, so that's five straight away. Um, so yeah, but yeah, Supersonic Annihilator. So this is Claw's tactics card. which is Area 5. Yeah, that's it, Area 5. This is why Claw is amazing. um,
That's it.
yeah, so it's just such a good card. And if you deal damage, then it stuns them as well, which is just really, really strong. Also, as well, because they changed the rules for area attacks, because before you used to just hurt your whole team pretty much, whereas it doesn't hurt anyone on your team now, so it's so good. It's also 6 dice, which we all know 6 dice can cripple certain characters. Um, and yeah, so I've had a really good, I had a really good game with it. Um, a couple of events ago where I was playing against Web Warriors, and it was on Scoundrels and Claws in the middle of the board, and he got lucky into Black Cat round 2, so he ended up getting 5 power, and then yeah, just area attacked the whole team, and yeah, it was just devastating. It stunned all but one Web Warrior, and it dazed Black Cat, so it was very, very good. Um, so yeah, I think that card's definitely worth taking when you take Claw.
It's a nice card. You don't feel like you need to use it every kind of round. Do you? It's as and when it appears. It's one of those cards where there will be a scenario where you can get the most amount of efficiency out of it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's really good on pay to flips because, yeah, stunning characters on pay to flips can be just very, very good. Later on in the game, where um, I feel like certain characters either have to just go around and flip points, which sometimes I'll only be able to flip one because they're stunned, and it's hard for them to gain power. Um, or they have to, so they've got to decide if they do that or whether they just attack you, but then they'll struggle to gain power for their spender. So yeah, I think stun is amazing, especially on pay to flips. But I think Supersonic Annihilator is probably the best crisis on it, which I think I played you on recently was like M.O.D.O.K, just because everyone's so close, and I feel like M.O.D.O.K stunning your opponent on M.O.D.O.K can be just devastating because they, if they've got one character left, who, normally can just move on to certain points and score them, if they're stunned, they can only do it once, so it's not as bad for you.
Yeah, I suppose it's really good into teams that generate a lot of power themselves as well. Things like Sentinels or
Yeah,
Asgardians, where you just basically cripple the kind of inbuilt kits.
yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, especially Sentinels. Sentinels, if they're in a good position, get up to 10 power pretty quick. So yeah, being able to stop that from happening can be very, very good. And then yeah, we go on to Cruelty. So Cruelty and No Mercy I'll talk about at the same time really, but they're just there to sort of fill the gap. I took Cruelty a couple of times in the Irish games. But yeah, I think Cruelty is probably best on Loki too, just because obviously you can't explode, you can't add dice, so Spectrum can't help it out, and you can't mod your dice, whereas obviously Loki counts your skulls as successes, so yeah, having Loki being able to do 2 mystic attacks and then use Cruelty can be it can be very cruel. um, but yeah, I don't generally take it too much. Same with No Mercy. Giving a character 3 extra power can be really, really good. But yeah, it probably, looking back at my list, it probably changes for Shadow Organization. Um, just because when you end up playing against, say, Guardians or other gun teams, Shadow Organization can just be very, very good of stopping your characters get blown apart. So yeah, and then Grand Illusion was just there. If you're taking Mysterio, which unfortunately I didn't take him in any Irish games, but yeah, you just take Grand Illusion with him, and as I said, it just makes Loki ridiculously good. But yeah, there's my Texas cards.
Very nice. So I think that's quite a comprehensive overview. Um, like you say, you kind of got a core of cards, and then some cards you kind of flex into as and when. And I think, as you said, there's cards you're kind of looking at as other options, and you kind of swapped in and out.
Yeah,
I think we've covered quite a lot there. Do you
Yeah,
want to
definitely.
move on to secures?
Yeah, sure. So secures wise, so I've got Riot Sparks, Superpower Scoundrels, Infinity, Cosmic Invasion, and Deadline. So I think making a Kingpin list, you want um, secures that are very, very spread out, and secures that you can score pretty fast, and not everyone's clumped together because, yeah, Kingpin does not like being in a fight or clumped together. He likes to spread everyone out, so it gives the opponent bad options on who to go after. So Riot and Cosmic Invasion are great just because I've got so many fast movers in my team where you can just, round one you can sit on a point, and round two you can just rotate onto other points. So then your opponent's always chasing you, which can be very very crippling because yeah, if you move someone off a point and the person hasn't got a target, they either move, try to shoot them, and not be on a secure, which is very very dangerous when you're playing against Kingpin. And then another character can just move onto that point a bit later. So yeah, and Riots is obviously great because I get to heal while doing it, which yeah, upsets a lot of people playing Kingpin when you get Echo or Black Cat just being able to heal twice in an activation, and then whoever's on the point with them afterwards gets to heal them again. So then you've just healed 60% of their health. Um, and then Cosmic Invasion is great because Kingpin's list can get power without getting hit, which is very, very good again with an Echo or a Black Cat. I'm saying them two just because they're probably my most took, apart from Kingpin and Loki, they're my most took characters. And because they're long move, they come out on Riots and Cosmic a lot. So yeah, D-shapes are great with Kingpin. Scoundrels, if you've not ever played against a Kingpin list on Scoundrels, don't unless you've got a lot of tech to do that. Essentially, I think Sentinels and Strange are relatively good against them on Scoundrels. Mainly Sentinels, because I think Strange, unless Strange has got a Moon Dragon or someone else which can move people off points, you definitely need 2 or 3 characters to be able to push them off points, which is why Sentinels are so good at it. But yeah, Scoundrels are just great. There's 5 points to score. It gives me cover. It just sits right up there with the best secure for Kingpin. And then Infinity, again, very similar to Cosmic Invasion, where just sitting on a point and gaining power without getting hit is just very, very good. It turns Kingpin's throws and his staggers online a lot quicker, whereas normally he's got to wait to like round 3, round 4 before someone actually stands on this point and he can throw them away. So yeah, that's really really good. Again, it's good with Taskmaster to get his Indomitable technique up and running a lot more. Spectrum, obviously being able to bump people's dice up more. So yeah, Infinity is very very strong for my list. And then Deadline's definitely the weakest out of the 4. Well, out of the 5. Which after the Irish event, I've actually changed out for Wedding Party because I think if you get an attrition team on Deadline, it can just be very very sad um, for Kingpin, because you just lose characters really really quick, and yeah, there's not really anywhere you can run. So yeah, it's changed for Wedding Party, just because.
It's interesting you say Wedding Party because obviously you mentioned just before that you like kind of spread out Crisis, and
Yeah,
Wedding Party is almost the opposite of that. What's
yeah.
the thinking with it, say, over something kind of a similar kind of width to like the D shapes? Like I know Mad Men is a pay to flip or something like that, but what's the thinking of trying to keep trying to go a bit narrower with that kind of style of map?
Yeah, so I've tried out Lockdown quite a lot. Round one feels okay with Lockdown, but then when one randomly gets took off and you're only scoring a 3 per round, feels quite rough with Kingpin. I feel like he needs a lot higher scoring. I say a lot higher scoring. He needs to score, up to 4 on on secures every round. I think so. Lockdown can feel really really slow. Um, And yeah, I don't want any pay to flips with Kingpin because I want to take him as much as possible. I don't particularly want to take M.O.D.O.K on pay to flips. I mean, I could change it for a pay to flip, but then if I pick my secures and the pay to flip comes out, they'll always pick pay to flip because they don't want to deal with Kingpin. And I think Kingpin's game plan's a lot harder to deal with than M.O.D.O.K's. So yeah, Wedding Party just feels like the best out of the rest of the bunch. Intrusions is a no-go. Intrusions is not fun at all with Kingpin. One, it's very, very slow scoring, and two, yeah, just no one is safe from anyone. And yeah, the Mayor Fisk, I feel like, is okay, but the stun and damage hurts a lot. So yeah, I've just gone for Wedding Party. I've got enough characters in my list where at 20 threat, I can go 6 wide, and it just makes it very hard to deal with. And yeah, just try to score out as quick as possible, really.
Yeah, it makes sense. I suppose because you've got more than one character on a point, it makes it incredibly hard for your opponent to steal it off you. You have to commit a lot of resources.
Yeah, 100%. Was there anything else
Fantastic.
that you wanted to talk about with that, or
I don't think so. I think Kingpin's kind of self-explanatory. His style of play is to try and get bodies on points.
Yeah,
But I think it's how you go about staying on points, isn't it? So I think your characters illustrate a very different style of wanting to sit on those points, whereas
yeah,
other teams are more kind of, I don't want to use the word potato, but that's kind of the classic for Kingpin's list, isn't it? You
yeah,
sit on points and that's all you do, and you just throw other people off. I
yeah.
think your list is a little bit more mobile and proactive almost in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. I think the one last thing I'll say about it is, as I mentioned about like Echo and Black Cat and Loki and Spectrum going onto the back points. So Infinity and Scoundrels are, the perfect crisis for that. So yeah, I think it's very good to do that where you go onto your opponent's back point, but you just have to be careful. I think especially round one, you want to get have the least amount of attacks into you as possible. I feel like Kingpin can auto lose certain matchups sometimes if if you get characters days round one, if you lose a lot of characters round two, it can just be very very hard for Kingpin to get back into it. So yeah, when I backdive the points, I either do it where I'll only get one attack into me, or none at all. And I don't really do it against the attrition teams at all because they will just murder me. So yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Is there anything else you want to cover in new secures, or should we move on to extracts?
Yeah, move on to extracts, I think. So yeah, so extracts wise, I've got Struggle for the Cube, Spider Infected, Scientific Samples, Scrolls, and Unexpected Guests. So
I was going to say the interesting question, kind of immediately off the rip, is you have 3 civilians, which obviously in human kind of meta,
yeah,
does that ever cross your mind on when picking these extracts to try and avoid them, or is it you're picking these primarily just to kind of optimize Kingpin's scoring potential?
yeah, that's a very good question. So I probably make my lists a little bit different to other people. I know there's a lot of people out there which wouldn't take a single civilian because it prioritizes Terragenesis, which fingers crossed it will get banned soon, but that's another again another different story. Um, but I tend to make my lists with what I want to take, and I don't really think about the potential of getting Inhumans at a random event, which will stop me from taking civilians. Um, so yeah, I normally take the extracts that work in my game plan, and I think that's quite important to sort of learn. Really, is if you wanted to try to counter everything in MCP, you'd need 20 characters, you'd need 20 team tactics cards, like which is impossible, obviously, because you're only allowed 10 of each. So I feel like a lot of the time you need to sort of work on the strengths of what you are doing as a character, as a what you're trying to achieve. And yeah, there'll be other stuff out there like Inhumans with civilians, which will be very very tricky. But again, you're not going to get them every single round. So if you get them one in every 10, the nine other matchups you get, which you've pretty much sort of jeopardized your list for, it won't affect it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm of the same opinion. I think you can't go, I'm not going to play a Crisis because this one affiliation will beat me, because by that logic you'd never play any Crisis ever, because there's always going to be some team somewhere that will beat you at that specific matchup. So you might as well play in what you're strong to, and then kind of suffer on the 1% of your games.
Yeah, I completely agree. When Inhumans were everywhere a couple of months ago, it was a very dark place. But when they were everywhere, I was running Hydra at the same time, and I had like a 70% win rate into them, which I was quite pleased with. And there was only one reason for that, which was Nick Fury. Um, and yeah, so I had one character that could sort of make it a lot harder for Inhumans to beat me. So yeah, but we don't, especially in the England meta, we don't really see Inhumans too much anymore. Yeah, which is nice. So yeah, my list hasn't changed for Inhumans at all. But yeah, sort of going through the list. So yeah, I've got Cubes and Spider Infected. Yeah, I think just having 5 extracts on the board is very very strong. Um, One of my favourite things to do is just double move Kingpin onto the middle left, pick up the cube or the Spider Infected. Um, Obviously, normally your opponent won't target him straight away, which gives you a chance for Loki to go and to bring him back. Um, Whether you're playing on a D shape, you can place him 2 straight back, so he's on the back point, or you can do it. You can position him when you're on Infinity, um, or I'm pretty sure as well Scoundrels. You can place him 2 onto another point. So yeah, I like to do that with Kingpin. Gets him out of danger, and he's happy with an extract. Also, as well, again, with having so many long moves, that I can get my opponent's back point. If they've not really put anyone in front of one of their extracts who can kill me, then sometimes I will like Black Cat or Echo, or probably not Spectrum, because she wants to sort of stay more alive and bump people's dice up. But yeah, Echo or Black Cat can very comfortably go and steal one of those. So yeah, I think just F shapes are really really strong for me. Scientific samples again is a D shape. It's all spread out, so it's again very very strong. Um, Again, depending what crisis you're on, Kingpin go pick up the mid, like one of the side points, and then you can place him back 2 with Loki, so he's out of danger, and you're getting the extra victory point for it, which is very very good. There's not too much else to say about scientific samples. Scrolls, it's mainly there just for the 20 threat. There wasn't. I don't really want to take Terrigen because I don't want all of my long movers slowed. So this was sort of the next best thing to take, really. The midpoint, again, I've got lots of long movers which can just pick that up in one, so that's fine. And then obviously terrain dependent. It'll depend who wants to pick up the midpoint and the side points. Yeah, and then unexpected guests. Again, it's another 4 scoring extract, but it doesn't put my characters in danger of getting dazed like Inhuman Weapons or Deadly Legacy, or it doesn't put everyone on the midpoint, which I definitely don't want to do. So yeah, it just keeps my characters nice and safe. Also, as well, again with the likes of Loki and stuff like that, they can go pick up the back point as long as they're sort of safe for it. Um, so yeah, that's that one. And then yeah, I don't think. So I know certain people run senators with Kingpin just because obviously you can move the points about quite easily with the leadership. But yeah, again, I think you're putting too many people into the midpoint, and I think you're going to get quite a few people dazed, which is why I don't really run that one. Same as hammers. Hammers is D shape, but yeah, you don't want you don't want your opponent to be rolling too many dice into you either. So
I suppose the
yeah,
thing with Senators is you don't have much action compression, whereas a lot of teams that want to play it can dive and then still escape with after stealing yours. So things like Brotherhood with Mystique, Juggernaut, kind of that combination, or you have like webs where they can dive in, take a bit of damage, and then walk web swing away.
yeah, definitely, and as well, Inhumans are very strong on it with Lockjaw, and I've seen quite a few people. I think Liam Watts was on it for a bit, where Black Cat could steal your back point, uh, Lockjaw could go up, get a power off Black Bolt, teleport himself up, pick one up, and then teleport Black Cat range 3 back, so she's just completely safe. So, and again, Kingpin doesn't. Well, he doesn't want to be chasing the extracts around. He wants to have the extracts. He wants your opponent to be chasing him. I feel like if something's gone seriously wrong, if Kingpin's chasing your opponent, like start of round 2. So yeah, that's why I don't take that one either.
Makes sense. Are there any kind of extracts you try and avoid? Because obviously with the kind of pick and ban system, is there any specific ones you really hate with Kingpin other than say Senators, which as you said is very kind of aggro?
Yeah, so I don't like. This is just a personal preference. I think I don't like Alien Ship. I hate the fact that you need to sort of worry about the power that you've got on someone. And I think Alien Ship's very, if you're playing a good, competent opponent, you can activate someone who's got an alien ship, and then obviously your opponent can attack them after they've activated, give them a load of power, and they just explode. So I feel like alien ship's not good at all for Kingpin. Inhuman weapons is okay, but again, it's putting too many people on the midpoint, which I don't like. Just trying to think of the others now. Legacy is okay. Again, with the leadership, it can be quite strong where you can, bunch the legacies onto, I don't know, Okoye or like a Taskmaster or something, and then later on in the game they can explode and you just win the game. So that's quite good. Again, yeah, hammers I try to stay away with because I think one, you don't want your opponent to be rolling too many dice into you, and two, there's a thing called the Eye Hulk, which I think Eye Hulk himself just makes Suns just busted on hammers. I've played too many games where you've you've KO'd the whole Midnight Sun team apart from Hulk, but because Hulk's got the 4 hammers and sitting on a point, you just lose on points. So yeah, I just don't take that at all. And yeah, I think that's. I mean, Montesi's okay, but again, like if Kingpin moved and picked up the middle point, they're in a position where they can just attack him straight away because I won't be able to reach their Montesi point. So it's a bit more sketchy, but yeah, it's not the worst. It's just I kind of try to stay away from the ones that you only score 3 extracts on, or 3 secures, to be honest.
What do you think of source extracts? Because obviously they're coming in the new Crisis update and rolling out in June. We've already seen Jailbreak, and at the weekend they showed off the uh, ships or the Haven one as well. Do you think Kingpin will like seeing source extracts in the new kind of Crisis set or not?
Yeah, so Jailbreak's quite good for Kingpin to a degree. I used to hate Jailbreak. I played one game when it first came out, and I was like, I'm so glad I don't have to pick this because I'll just pick the opposite one. But then I went to an event recently where I got Jailbreak 3 times in a row and won all 3 games. So I was like, oh, this isn't actually too bad. It very much, I think Jailbreak very much depends what secure you're on. It can feel very weird when it's on a D shape because no one can pick one up and sit on the midpoint with the D shape unless you do cool things like you keep them within range 5, but then Loki goes a bit later and he places the character onto the point. Or yeah, so it can be quite good. It's very very strong for um, it's very good on with Kingpin on like Scoundrels or Infinity because you can just plonk someone on the point and then just keep getting the jailbreak. So it's very very crisis dependent really. I had a game on the Sunday in Ireland, which was a team event, where Jailbreak and Deadline came out, and it was against a very aggro Drac list, and I just had nowhere to hide, nowhere to score points. It kept going 4-4 every round, but I was just dying because I had nowhere to put anyone. So yeah, Jailbreak on Deadline was not fun with Kingpin, which is another reason why I took Deadline out, to be honest. But yeah, I quite like it, but it's very very secure, focused on whether I like it or not.
Awesome. Sounds like you've got given us a good overview of your list. Is there anything else you want to go through? Anything we've missed?
I don't think there's anything that we missed. There was something that I was thinking about when we moved on from secures, but my little brain can't think at the moment. So if that comes out during the rest, I'll just be like, oh, this is the point I was trying to make on secures. But yeah,
Awesome. So should we go on to some of your games from the weekend?
yeah, sure. So we've got game one. I got paired into a lovely player called Mark Leddy, one of the Irish guys. So my list was Kingpin, Loki, Klaw, and Black Cat. Um, and he went Blade, Iron Fist, Ghost Rider, Luke Cage, and Toad. And it was on Unexpected Guests and Wedding Party. So I was quite lucky that I won um, both prior royals. So yeah, this is I've actually thought about the thing with the secures. So the thing I was going to say with secures is when the way they've changed the game, where when you win prior, you obviously you still pick secures or extract, but you obviously have to pick between two. Um, if my opponent's got Scoundrels and say Scoundrels and Riots, but then they've got well, no. So if they've got Scoundrels, Riots, and say Infinity, if they've got 3 out of the 5 that I really like and the other 2 I hate, I will still generally gamble and I'll generally pick my extracts and their secures because obviously most people that are that are sane. If if Scoundrels comes out for me, they will not pick Scoundrels against Kingpin unless they've got some good jank against it. So a lot of the time, if I see they've got good, 3 out of the 5 secures are decent, I'll take a gamble, and luckily most of the time it pays off. So yeah, So I can't remember exactly what Mark Levy's list was, but I picked his secures and my extracts. So Wedding Party came out. I think it was Wedding Party or Guardians. So yeah, obviously I didn't want the pay to flip, so I picked Wedding Party. Um, and he had a nice list where it was Midnight Suns defenders. So he had Strange in there and a couple of other heavy hitters, especially on the energy form, which is why I bought Claw out for this, because I was like, Wedding Party, if I don't take Claw and he brings Doctor Strange, then there's just one of them points I'll never be able to score. So yeah, I went four wide, and yeah, he went Suns instead of defenders, which I was quite shocked about. But yeah, it worked out in the end. But yeah, it was a fun game. Claw on my left flank ended up taking on Blade and Luke Cage, and then the other flank was Kingpin, Loki, and Black Cat fighting. Well, mainly Ghost Rider and Fist. Toad picked up an extract and then just did Toad things and stayed around the back. But yeah, I managed to score quite quick, quite fast. And yeah, the score ended 17-7 to me. So yeah, it was a fun game. Mark got a bit unlucky on certain dice rolls, but yeah, it was a quite fun game.
Out of interest, what was the thinking of putting Claw against Blade and Cage? Because obviously he would have had a lot better time against Iron Fist and Ghost Rider with their energy attacks. Uh, Was it a case of you put him down and Mark tried to counterpick, or
Yeah, um, so I went Loki in the middle. I quite like to put Loki right in the middle, being the long move. He can just decide which side he goes. And then he put Blade on his right flank. Um, and yeah, I knew Fist and Ghost Rider were there, but I thought if I can get bump offline quite quick, it will help me out massively. So yeah, I just put Claw opposite Blade because obviously we all know Blade does not like energy attacks. So yeah, I mainly put Claw there just to try to kill Blade really.
that makes sense. He definitely hates seeing a six dice energy attack coming back at him.
Oh, definitely, yeah, he does not like it at all. And Indom worked
Did
out
you get?
quite. Sorry, I was just going to say Indom worked out quite well as well because the the the, um, the time that he used Heroes for Hire to throw Claw away, I just Indomed it and stayed on my point, which was it
Very
worked quite
nice.
well, yeah.
Yeah. Did you get to use claws push people off points to kind of help you win a side as well at any point, or was
Yeah,
it mainly just that he was dealing with blades?
yeah. So Claw managed to do it every round. Well, it only went 3 rounds, but he managed to do it round 2 and round 3. um, because it was only him versus Blade and Luke Cage. So I think I managed to daze Blade, but I didn't KO either of them. But yeah, both round 2 and round 3, his option was just to double tap me, and yeah, it failed to kill me, so I just pushed him off points.
Especially when you count as two. If you're pushing one person off and there's two characters there, it's
Yeah,
they're unlikely to win the point.
yeah, 100%.
Also, is there any other kind of interesting things from this game you want to cover, or
Um, Not particularly. Again, it was just mainly Loki trying to keep certain characters alive by go forth. I think Black Cat took quite a bit of damage early on, so yeah, just got her to steal an extract and then just go forth just to get her a bit further away. But yeah, not too much else to take away from that game, to be fair.
should we move on to game two?
Yeah, sure. So game two. So this one was against Adam Warlock. So yeah, I went Kingpin, Loki, um, Echo, Black Cat, and Okoye. And he went Adam Warlock, Rocket, Gamora, and Moondragon without the Mind Gem, which I was very happy to see. um, and yeah, it went Scrolls and Infinity Formula. So again, I won both prior rolls. So yeah, I believe I picked his secures again because he had Infinity, and he had a couple others which I quite liked. So yeah, I was happy to pick his secures again. And yeah, Infinity came out, and yeah, obviously picked 17th threat, which this is my favourite 17th threat, as you'll probably see in the next the next game as well. It's just such a strong 17, and it's even stronger with Okoye there instead of Bullseye because, as I said earlier, Bullseye just ends up dying, whereas Okoye can hold her own a bit more and keeps other people from dying. So yeah, um, it went a bit rough for Adam, unfortunately. Well, sorry, the guy I was playing was called David Coleman, but yeah, so Adam Warlock, it went quite rough for him because yeah, as you can see, he only went 4 wide and I went 5 wide, and it was on Infinity, which hasn't actually come up. So sorry, the map's slightly different, but it should be Infinity and Scrolls, not Wedding Party of Scrolls. So yeah, it just went a bit rough for him because Echo and Black Cat would where they could go onto his back points, and yeah, I ended up scoring. I think it was 6-2, 6-2 both round 1 and 2, and then it was 4-3 round 3. So I ended up winning 16-7. But yeah, it was mainly Loki again, very defensively, just being able to go for characters out of range of Adam. And then yeah, he set Gamora up on his right flank, so I put Black Cat right in front of her, again just to stop her having the deadliest woman. And the other side I had Kingpin and Okoye, which were against Moondragon, as yeah, Rocket was on Gamora's side because yeah, I double moved Black Cat onto that point, so he had to double up on it. But yeah, it just didn't go too well for him, unfortunately. But yeah, dice with dice, and I was just spreading everyone out enough that I could just score points and not really take much damage. So yeah,
So I suppose it's worth noting from both these games, you finished them in 3 rounds, which obviously is kind of against the norm that we kind of hear that it's normally 4 rounds in a game. Do you think that's down to Kingpin's ability to score quickly, or do you think that's some of the tech you're bringing in the squads?
I think it can be a bit of both, really. And as I said earlier, I think it very much. I think the best way to run a Kingpin list is, which I think benefits a lot of people, is knowing the right activation order. So being able to rotate people in the correct order can just really, really hurt your opponent. And yeah, it takes a bit of finesse to try to figure out who's the best to activate in certain orders. But yeah, I think scoring out 16 to 17 in 3 rounds can be quite normal for Kingpin if your opponent doesn't really see what you're planning to do. But yeah, I think sometimes it's to put certain characters in bad positions round 1 or round 2 quite late on. Hopefully they go somewhere else at the start of round 2, and then you can just run that character away really, and then just later on in that round double move someone back onto that point. But yeah, I think it's very much in the activation order really.
Yeah, that's interesting. So um, it's interesting you've gone Okoye to fill in the gap, like you said. She's obviously there to look after Kingpin.
Yeah,
You've got a very mobile list as well. I think Black Cat and uh, Echo love Infinity because it just kind of ticks them over the edge. They've always got access to their kit they want, which is charge on Echo and kind of a stagger off Black Cat, or it makes it easier for Black Cat to steal. Um, do you think Infinity was kind of that kind of tipping point, especially because you're going 5 wide? His characters are having to do a lot more to kind of daze through your team.
yeah, definitely. And I was speaking to David after the game, and he hasn't played many games against Kingpin, unfortunately, because I think he had Star-Lord in his team, and yeah, I was talking to him a little bit afterwards, saying he should have definitely gone Star-Lord, because you definitely want to go the same amount of characters as Kingpin, if not one more. I think sometimes, unless you've got like a super attrition team which can just get rid of them. But yeah, going four wide on 17 against Kingpin can just be very, very, um, it can just hurt your opponent a lot more. Um, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that game as well. I double moved Loki round one to sit next to Moondragon on the back infinity point, which Loki won't take much at all from Moondragon. Her doing four dice rapid fires into him when he's got five, counting her skulls. She's really doing very minimal damage to him. So yeah, I think my team just countered his team pretty well, and I just managed to score out before Adam Warlock killed anyone really.
Yeah, so it sounds pretty interesting. It sounds like the team kind of struggled to fight into you, which I think is it's definitely a benefit of the kind of tools you've got in the squad. Should we move on to game 3?
Yeah, for sure. So game three is there. So this one was against my good mate Rory Finnegan, who was running the actual event. Just a little shout out to Rory. He did such an amazing event. I went last year as well, and he really puts on a good show for everyone. So um, if you're from Ireland, or if you're English, or if you're anywhere close to Ireland, it's definitely worth going to one of Rory's events. They are amazing, and yeah, definitely recommend them. There's also another Irish event going on in May. I believe it's the first weekend of May, where Mike Marshall will be um, the TO there, and yeah, you'll all have a really good time because yeah, the Irish community are probably the nicest community I've ever been around. They're so friendly, so bubbly, and yeah, they're just all really, really nice people. So yeah, I was quite happy to get Rory in round three. Not so happy how long the game went on for, which I'll get onto in a minute, because yeah, we both were frazzled after this game. So yeah, my team against Rory was exactly the same as last game. So Kingpin, Loki, Echo, Black Cat, and Okoye, and I went against Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, Magic, Wong, Shang, and Lizard. It was on Unexpected Guests and Cosmic Invasion, and again on 17th Threat. This list that he bought was very, very strong. It counters my list very, very well, with Magic with Journey Through Limbo, Sorcerer Supreme with his place free, Shang with his a million pushes per round, and obviously Lizard being able to throw me. So yeah, I won Prio, and I picked um, again Rory's Secures, because they had quite a lot of similarities to mine, um, and he won first Prio. So he actually went quite ballsy with this, and Lizard backdived my Unexpected Guest and picked it up, which was a very nice play from him. Because so yeah, I'll put it into perspective. So Lizard was on his right flank, Wong was in the middle, Shang was on his right flank as well. Then Magic and Doctor Strange were on his left flank. Um, so yeah, Lizard did that, and then yeah, what did I do? I think I just started attacking him with no, that's it. So I double moved Black Cat to pick up the one that was on his back point. So the one opposite the one that Lizard just picked up. So I had Shang there, but I made sure I was outside of range free, so Shang could only move once and attack me once, which Black Cat should hopefully be okay against. And then yeah, I abandoned my right flank, so I picked up the unexpected guest on my right, and then moved back onto my midpoint, and I left Strange and Magic just in no man's land really because I didn't want to get placed free anywhere. And then yeah, put a lot of damage into Lizard, left him on one, which is the classic MCP special, and then Lizard for the rest of the game just kept moving away. I think I even slow and rooted him with Giant's Blood, and he kept moving away, and he ended up getting back on full health, and I didn't take a single bit more damage off him later on in the game. But so this game went on for 8 rounds. Yeah, 8 rounds. It was such a mind. It was such a mind game. It actually went 28-26 to me, so it's probably the biggest scoring game I've ever played. It just became like a four-dimensional chess at the end of it, where we kept scoring four each, but any wrong move I made, I knew Strange or Magic could place me free off a point and just win there and then. Shang could charge and push me off a point to win right there. Again, with Lizard, could throw me off a point. So it's very much, putting people in certain positions. And I eventually managed to get the win in round 8. But it was a very very long game. I think I had 30 seconds left on the clock time, the chess clock. So yeah, it was just really really tough game, but it was a very very fun game as well.
So what tipped the scales in at the end of the game? Because I noticed you're on 28 and Rory's on 26. Obviously means you took 2 points off him somewhere, or kind of more points, so balancing out if you were going evens every round. What was the kind of final decider?
Yeah, so I think round 5 I managed to get 3 out of the 4 extracts. And quite ironically, I was playing the extract game and he was playing the secure game, so I would end up having 3 extracts and 1 point, whereas he'd have 1 extract and all the other 3 points. So it kept going 4-4, and I had to, double up on certain points, which obviously a couple of them were injured at the time. But I had to double up on points because, as I said, like Strange could just come and like place me off and just win the game there and then. Um, but I believe in round 7, so Loki and Black Cat and Sorcerer Supreme were on Rory's back point, but Black Cat was off the point because I ended up go forthing her to get out of the way really. And then round 8 happened. No, sorry, at the end of round 7, Loki double moved onto my back point where Wong and Shang were, and I believe Shang had an extract and he had 1 health left. So then I activated Loki first, and managed to daze Shang. So I ended up getting 4 extracts, and just managed to sit on one of the points. So then I ended up going 5-3 in round 8. But it could have gone either way. It was just very very close.
Sounds like a nail biter of a game. What made you kind of lean into the extract game? Because obviously, typically, Kingpin is a very secure, focused kind of style of play. Most people kind of focus on the everybody counts as 2, but Kingpin's leadership focuses on being able to hand the extracts round. Was that something that kind of played in the back of your mind, or was it more the tech that was against you?
Oh yeah, trust me. I wish I was playing the secure game. It was. He just had so much tech against me. At one point, Kingpin was in the corner of my board, on fire, from Strange and Journey Through Limbo. Um, so I kept trying to set up him double moving and being just being able to sort of move Loki a bit later and being able to go forth and back on the point because he was healthy. But Rory kept seeing through it, and Doctor Strange just kept pushing him further and further away. And then Lizard was throwing people off points. Shang was charging and pushing people off points and stunning people. So yeah, Rory's list made it very very difficult for me to play the secure game. So yeah, I got quite lucky when I ended up getting 3-1 up on the extracts, and I just had to hold on to that. But again, it was very much like 4D chess, where if I had activated someone at the wrong situate, like at the wrong point, and moved them onto the point, Rory could have just double moved someone onto that point, either thrown or placed that character away, and I'd have just lost. So yeah, it was a lot of thinking that game.
Sounds like a fantastic game. Okay. Is there anything else you want to cover for game 3, or should we move on to game 4?
No, yeah, we'll move on to game 4. So game 4 is okay. So I ended up playing against Mike Porter, his name or shield list. So yeah, I ran Kingpin, Taskmaster, Echo, Black Cat, and Spectrum, and he ran Namor, Nick Fury, Agent Venom, Spectacular Spider-Man, and Zemo. And we were on Legacy Virus and Deadline to Destruction on 19th threat. And yeah, as you can see, I took a bit of a different turn to this game. I've played against quite a lot of Namor Shield, where I very much know that they just bunker up and they get a million rerolls on defense and attack and everything. So I needed to have a team where I could, get through that bunker, or stagger certain characters so then they don't have as much impact on the game. So that's why Spectrum came out, because as I said about talking about my list, Taskmaster and Echo are very good against the teams that can mod, and adding 2 dice to their dice that you can't mod against is very very strong. Um, so yeah, I won Prio, which I'm pretty sure I picked my secures for this one, because I think he had quite a few pay to flips if I remember correctly. Um, but he won first turn, which yeah, Fury and the Grunts just picked up the middle and his right flank. The middle had a size 3. It was right on a size 3 where both of us could have double moved and picked it up, and been in cover and been safe. So yeah, it was quite lucky that he got first turn, so they picked that up. And then Taskmaster from my side picked up the other side. And then yeah, Namor just stood by me. And yeah, his second round, Namor went first. Had enough power. Well, he started with 4 power, obviously, because the first game he didn't. The first turn he didn't use any power, so yeah, he had 4, so he could spend a me, pick up that Deadly Legacy, and then run onto his back deadline. Which I was a bit like, oh boy, here comes the bunker. He's already got 3 extracts. He's going to bunker up on the back point, and yeah, if I allowed that to happen, it would just keep going 4-3-4-3-4-3 to him. Um, so yeah, I got quite fortunate against Zemo and Spectacular, where I dazed and KO'd them quite early on using Taskmaster with Spectrum's dice bump. Um, so that was quite fortunate. And then yeah, Echo kept, because I think yeah, Spectacular went back onto the bunker on his back point, and Echo kept, who was on my right deadline. She kept charging in, doing a bullseye into Spectacular, doing a couple of damage, then walking back. I was just being very sort of patient with it. And then Black Cat ended up staying on the back point, because my sort of feeling was he's either going to attack her and she's going to survive, and she can either steal one of the extracts back off them, or she can just try to double stagger, um, which obviously there's no point staggering Agent Venom, because he can just spend a power. So she ended up staggering Namor, Fury, and Spectacular quite often, until Spectacular died. But yeah, it really came down to me getting rid of Spectacular and Zemo quite early on, and then it ended up being 5 versus 3. I managed to get one of the Deadly Legacies back, and then ended up just scoring that plus all the deadlines in the last round. So it ended a very close 17-15. So it was a very very close game, and Mike's a very good player, so I was very pleased with the result.
Yeah, it sounds very different to the kind of usual Kingpin plan of being, I don't want to say passive, but kind of forcing your opponent to be reactive to the game plan.
Yeah,
You almost went off on the front foot with this. Is that something that you only looked at because of the style of team you were going into, because it was a bunker team, or is that something that you like to try and do into slower scoring missions?
it was mainly because of a bunker. Because I knew for a fact as soon as Namor sort of came up to Taskmaster, I was like, right, he's going to end up having three legacies straight away, and then he's going to bunker up because obviously Namor's leadership. Characters like Spectacular are getting, well, they're getting like 4, potentially 5 rerolls on defense if Zemo's there as well. Um, it just becomes very, very tough to try to deal with that. So I thought Taskmaster and Echo were the perfect sort of game plan to try to like to daze them to get the extracts back, and then obviously Spectrum being there, bumping the dice up was quite essential. If I hadn't gone for Spectrum, then I think this game would have been very different because just doing new Nomic technique with Taskmaster, making it into 9 dice spender with Zemo and Spectacular not being able to reroll is just very very strong, and ended up doing a lot of damage to them.
It sounds like you're really trying to lean into the weaknesses of the list. So
Yeah, definitely.
it's nice to see you've used tools out of your toolbox and kind of shown how you use them, because this is very different to the usual Kingpin plan, and you're kind of taking advantage of the leadership whilst also being relatively aggressive, which is kind of unusual for a lot of Kingpin players.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm pretty sure this game, even though I didn't use it, I had going all out just because I knew the team he's going to take was going to have a lot of rerolls. So I bought that just in case it got to the point where I wasn't doing much damage into them and I just needed to, take the extracts back off them. So I actually bought it, but I didn't use it. I also bought All According to Plan, but I never had a chance to use it because I was doing quite a lot of damage to his team, and then just using that power to use like spenders like Mnemonic Technique and echoes where they don't, they can't explode crits and they don't count. So I didn't actually have any power at any point where I could have, used it at all.
So at this point, you're 4-0. You've played 4 very different games. Um, Obviously, very different speeds in some of them. I mean, you've got an 8 round game, you've got a 3 round game. At this point, are you feeling confident you can kind of take on a completely different play style in the last one?
Yeah, definitely. Just like just in a little mistake that I made in the squad chat. So I've actually got Okoye in there as well. So I went 6 wide into his 5 wide. So Okoye should be there as well. Otherwise, I was doing the maths and I was like, why did I take 17 threat on 19? But I remember Okoye was there as well. um,
I imagine she was just sat at the back. That's why
oh,
you forgot she was there.
I tell you what, this was a game. I was talking to Mike, and my Kingpin was actually on his back point at one point. I was like, this is the furthest Kingpin's ever gone in a single game. Like, this is crazy.
It's the
Um,
fastest moving Kingpin ever, by the sounds of
yeah,
it.
100%. Yeah. But I was feeling relatively confident, because I know Mike was definitely one of the favourites to win the whole event. So I was happy, really, really happy going 4-0, and it was it was a completely opposite kind of game to the game I had against Rory, where against Rory I was holding on to my extracts and he was scoring the secures, whereas this was completely the opposite, where I was scoring secures and he was holding to the extracts. So yeah, my brain at this point was melted because of all the stuff I had to do to win the games. But yeah, I was very very happy at this point.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that at no point have you switched into your other leadership. You've not got a pay to flip. You are playing very different styles of maps though, and Kingpin's kind of carrying you through. So it's it shows you don't always need a rotation option. There's kind of like your first and second. Like you don't need two A plans, do you? You've got coverage. Your leadership's covering you in 90% of your situations.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, luckily, well, spoiler alert, didn't get a single pay to flip at all. So yeah, M.O.D.O.K didn't have to come out as a leader, which I was really happy about. Again, M.O.D.O.K is a very good leader. But yeah, I think obviously playing a Kingpin main list, you don't really want to get any pay to flips. So I was quite fortunate that I didn't get any.
Yeah, that makes sense. Should we move on to the final then? So you're 4-0 at this point. Let's see what you came up against.
Yeah, awesome. So in the final, I ended up playing against Ivan Sheehan. I've played him a couple of times before, and he's such a lovely person. So I was very happy to get him in the final, and he obviously did very well as well in the whole team, or in the whole event. So yeah. So in this team, I took Kingpin. I took a very strange list, as I'll definitely go through why I took this list. But yeah, I went Kingpin, Loki, Klaw, M.O.D.O.K, and Okoye. And he went Sam Wilson, King T'Challa, Iron Man, Black Widow, two threat, Shang, and Rescue. And we played on Jailbreak and Superpower Scoundrels. I won the first prior roll, and yeah, I saw he had Scoundrels, so I was like, okay, I'm going to pick your secures. Scoundrels came out, I was very happy about, and then oh no, sorry, he had no. I picked my extracts, and he ended up picking Scoundrels, because we spoke about it after the game, and he had so many displacements in his team that Scoundrels felt okay for him, which yeah, it worked out well. And then yeah, Jailbreak. So as I said earlier, Jailbreak with Scoundrels feels quite nice because you can just sit someone on both points and just keep keep scoring 2 points with that character. The reason why I bought this list is because I looked at his list, and I've played Ivan before. I know he likes to run King T and Iron Man, and Shang and all of those characters that can sort of displace quite easy. So obviously King T and Iron Man, they displace off their energy attack. So I was like, right, okay, Claw's going to come out because he's probably going to bring King T and Iron Man. And then yeah, also as well, Claw's good against Shang because although Shang is physical and mystic, so it hurts Claw, he still can't push him off points and everything like that. So yeah, and then M.O.D.O.K came out as well because I kind of wanted another character that Shang couldn't really affect. Again, M.O.D.O.K's got 3 physical, but again, Shang couldn't move him off points. So yeah, it was a very very strange list that I bought. Didn't know if it was going to do the best on this, but yeah, I ended up winning 20-14, which I was really happy about. It came down to Claw, who spent most of the time in the middle. He was pushing people off points. He was just being very aggressive. He was dazing. I think he dazed. Who did he daze? I think he dazed Shang at one point, and I believe Echo as well. And then yeah, King T was coming in, and luckily Shang having 5 energy against King T, and normally counting cover because King couldn't bound onto the point. Felt very good. But yeah, I think I was 15. I think I was like 15-8 up or something going into the last round. And I just spread everyone out, picked up the Jailbreak as when I could, and sat on a point. And there was just too much for him to do in the end to win the game.
Yeah, Scoundrels can definitely be like that. It's once your opponent gets that kind of momentum, it's very hard to stop them because they can just move to a point, and you've got to have the ability to drag them off or daze them.
Yeah, 100%. He got quite lucky early on. I think he dazed Loki at the start of round two, which felt really, really rough because then I only had four characters round two compared to his five, and King, I think it was Shang that dazed Loki, so he still had King left. And yeah, anyone which has played against King knows that he can just mince through a lot of people. So it got quite sketchy at times, but I managed to. It was quite funny actually. So like in every round, there'd be a couple of times where he would hit me, then I'd hit him with someone else, and then one of us would go grab a jailbreak, and then it'd be like quite quick, let's do it. So then like our next like two activations each were just like, right, I'm gonna get that jailbreak, and then we'd start punching each other again. So yeah, jailbreak can very much feel like that sometimes, where in a round if someone's picked one up, then it feels like you have to just all like spread out and pick up the jailbreak because it could get to the stage where if you don't do it, they could go 3-1 up on jailbreaks quite quickly.
Yes, especially on Scoundrels where you can sit between the jailbreak and the Scoundrel point and get cover as well.
Yeah, 100%.
It's not like you're just kind of out in the open where sometimes that can happen on jailbreak.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so overall, I won the whole thing, which I was really really happy about. It was 5 rounds in one day, which yeah, it was. I love playing 5 rounds in one day, but you definitely you definitely feel it as the final sort of whistle blows as such. But yeah, Ivan's such a lovely player and he's a really nice character, like guy. So yeah, I was very happy to get him in the final round, and yeah, it ended up being victory to the Criminals.
There we go. So, was there any kind of lessons learned from the day? Anything that you haven't covered kind of individually in games? I know you said you'd made changes to your roster. Is there anything kind of extra you've learned from the kind of day of playing?
Um, Not necessarily in this day. As I said, in the Sunday, the team event when I got jailbreak and deadline against an attrition team, that felt quite rough. So I don't. Yeah, that's why I've got deadline out of my list. Um, but yeah, I think the only thing I'd say that I learnt, um, again, it was on the Sundays on that specific matchup. I should have probably took M.O.D.O.K and not had the Kingpin counting as two on the deadlines. I think knowing when to take Kingpin compared to when to take M.O.D.O.K is quite important. Knowing when to sort of go a bit more heavy on the attrition or just to run round and score points can be quite important as well. Um, so yeah, yeah, I think the list is very very strong. It can do extremely well. But yeah, it can sometimes you can lose matches on your sort of turn zero on the squad that you picked. And as you know, the team doesn't do too well at chasing the game. So if the game gets away from you, like quite early on, Kingpin doesn't do well chasing the game. So yeah, I think squad picking is the most sort of important thing with Kingpin really.
Definitely. Kingpin always feels like the race to stop you getting to 16, at least playing against it. That's often how it feels for your opponent. So I suppose you've got to, when you're picking a squad, you're almost trying to counter pick your opponent's counter picks, aren't you?
Yeah, 100%. Um, yeah, I think as I said, I think he struggles against attrition teams. He struggles against strange defenders and sentinels mainly, and he can struggle against certain web warrior sort of teams that have got a lot of web whips and pools and everything. So yeah, it's trying to find ways around that, which is why I think Klaw is very essential to my list. I mean, I took him in 2 games out of 5 in this event, and he felt really strong in both games. So yeah, I was happy to sort of to showcase him as such. And people people when they were playing him were like, let me just read his card again, because they probably read it when he first got released and was like, nah, he's rubbish. And so it was nice to bring him out.
Yeah, you've definitely been championing Klaw in our local meta, so it's nice to see other people seeing him and taking recognition of that.
Yeah,
Should we move on to some of the kind of listener questions? We've had
yeah,
quite
of
a few.
course,
Okay,
definitely.
if you want to submit questions to us, you can do so in our Discord. If we're covering lists, we'll jump into the fan server and kind of ask for questions on there. But if you do want to submit questions or kind of podcast ideas, join in the Discord, which will be linked down in the description. Is the best way to do so. So let's start with the first one. So this is from Mike in the Galaxy's Greatest Discord. Abomination, Mephisto, or Ulik? Which do you think works best for Kingpin overall?
Okay, so I have, again, if you know me in person, you'll know about this, but I've got a love-hate relationship with Abomination. There's certain characters, I don't know what it is, but so obviously Abomination rolls 7 dice on his builder, well his gainer. It just ends up doing 0 damage for me every single time I attack with him. Whereas you'll roll 7 dice with someone else and they'll just one shot someone. So it's very much a me thing. So I'll try to sort of avoid that bias because Abomination always fluffs with me. But yeah, so I think Abomination and Ulik are probably the more. It's tricky because obviously a lot of people do run Mephisto, and he is very, very good. I think the only problem with Mephisto, which I found personally, is it's very hard to know when to use his tokens um, for like people bodyguarding him, and because I think they're almost like gold dust. His tokens, you want them so when you've got enough power, you can beam and just do a lot of damage. So you kind of want to hold on to them. So sometimes he can feel a bit like a glass cannon. Um, he is very good against the weaker teams, I think. So against the likes of X-Men or Web Warriors, especially Storm X-Men, like he's very good at preying on the weak. So a lot of the time when I was running him, I was double moving. Like if they had a like I don't know Wong or just say Wong on their back riots, then I'd be able to double move Mephisto and then do the Devil's Due, I believe it's called, the Mystic Attack, where you place off Wong and then attack him, and then you'll score him at point there straight away. And then next round you can just kill Wong quite comfortably. I think he struggles against the teams that can actually hit back quite hard. Again, he can feel a bit like a glass cannon. Um, but yeah, I'd say A bomb or Ulik. I mean, I keep meaning to try Ulik more, but Loki is just such a fun and essential part of the team, and I don't really want to drop Claw at the moment. But yeah, Loki being able to activate certain characters, having damage reduction, obviously the same as Abomination. I think them two are probably better in a Kingpin list than Mephisto. But again, a lot of people sometimes run Shadowlands with Kingpin, and then you can run the gruesome 16th threat of Shadowlands, Mephisto, Loki, and Bullseye, which works very well as well. So it really depends what you're trying to make out of your list, but I would say, personal opinion, Ulik's probably my favourite, followed by Abomination, and then followed by Mephisto.
Makes sense. Mike's also got another question. Obviously, we know you're running M.O.D.O.K as your pay to flip option.
Yeah.
He asks, why M.O.D.O.K over Shadowland? What's your thinking there?
Okay, that's a very good question. I think I went over this ever so slightly when I was talking about M.O.D.O.K and my characters, but I feel like M.O.D.O.K prefers the characters that Kingpin prefers as well. So you could run a M.O.D.O.K list where you've got Taskmaster, you've got Black Cat, you've got Spectrum and Echo, and that would feel like a very nice, good list, because they all benefit so much from the leadership of the Wild Convert. in both attack and defense. Whereas I feel like if you ran Shadowland with Echo, Black Cat, Taskmaster, and Spectrum, you wouldn't get the same feel. You'd get a reroll if they're on a secure, but that feels obviously pointless for Black Cat. She's not really wanting to deal damage to people. It's okay with Taskmaster, and it's okay with Echo, but yeah, I just think M.O.D.O.K, he prefers the lists that Kingpin takes, and I feel like certain characters, certain affiliations out there, it's very easy to dual affiliate. Whereas I think Kingpin really wants to take at least 7 or 8 characters that he wants. So you've got lots of option there. So it's just a lot easier to add M.O.D.O.K into that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense. And just the last one from is what are your thoughts on Ironmonger? I know you said you weren't able to run him for Ireland. Do you think he is going to be taken more than Black Cat and Echo, or do you think he's your third three for when you're playing with him?
He's definitely going to be my third, I think. Black Cat and Echo again just play into my game plan a lot better of double moving, long move. Ironmonger, although he's got that place one, he's quite a slow boy. So again, I'm going to try him out, and he'll get there on sort of certain scenarios, but yeah, I think he'll definitely still be my third. I think Black Cat and Echo are definitely joint first. Um, but yeah, I quite like the idea that he can steal extracts, and he can hit a little bit harder as well, which sometimes my list is missing that side of it. Also, I think he's quite good with M.O.D.O.K because they both can choose with like on their builder if it's physical or energy, which is quite good. And yeah, I think he just prefers to have a lot of power, so Wild Convert will help him gain more power in his attacks.
Okay, awesome. The next question is from Brid in our Discord. He says Kingpin often gets described as a gear check. Do you think a Kingpin roster needs a pivot if you see an opponent can comfortably either daze you or control you?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. So we've seen very recently in Adepticon that the top 3 players were Nathan, um, Mike DeLuca, and Jacob Deaton. They all had Kingpin pivots, I believe, off the top of my head. I know DeLuca and Deaton had a defender's pivot, and I think off the top of my head, Nathan did as well. Um, but yeah, that was it was very interesting to look at their lists and to see sort of why they're bringing Strange, which works out very well because I think they were bringing them mainly on the nutrition side of things. But I don't think you need to pivot as much with Kingpin. Um, you can definitely keep it inside Criminal Syndicate, so you can definitely pivot into M.O.D.O.K. But yeah, so I was actually running a solo Kingpin list for a little bit before forcing myself to play on pay to flips to see how bad they actually were for Kingpin, and they're not actually too bad because you can just again run like I had Prowler in my list at that point, so you could run Prowler, Echo, and Black Cat, which could go flip points and stuff, and Kingpin could just stay on a mutant madman or something and just guard that point really. Um, but yeah, I think it definitely helps having a pivot, but you don't have to necessarily go out of affiliation for a pivot if it makes sense.
Awesome. I think that kind of ties into the next question from Leon, who asked, "Is it essential to have a leadership pivot away from Kingpin if you draw a pay to flip?" I think you've kind of answered that there, but do you think it is essential, or do you think it's kind of this kind of covers the kind of weakness of Kingpin's leadership only getting half of it?
Yeah, so I think the other half of Kingpin's leadership, which a lot of people forget when they're playing him, where he can move extracts about, is so strong that you don't necessarily have to have a pivot. So you could just run Kingpin, or you could even run, or you could run leaderless Criminal Syndicate if you really wanted to. But yeah, Kingpin's not the worst on pay to flips, but yeah, um, that's why I've just got M.O.D.O.K there. Really, like again, he's not the worst on it, but if you've got another leadership there, then it's probably worth taking on pay to flips.
Makes sense. Leon's also got another question, which is, what common mistakes do you see people making when new to Criminal Syndicate?
Okay, so I think the main, which I think I went over a little bit earlier, the main sort of mistakes I see is definitely activation order. So I think, especially with me as well, like the early Kingpin games I was playing, sometimes I'd be too sort of, I'd get into like a little scrum with the opponent, and I wouldn't be moving characters about. I'd be trying to fight them, and try to out attrition them, and they were mainly the games that I'd lose. So I think activation order is probably the most important thing with Kingpin, of like moving the characters about and making sure that no one's gonna, get double tapped, or they're in like bad position. So yeah, I think that's the main issue. Well, the main problem I see with people using Kingpin is activation order. Also, as well as I said, squad building can be massive. So I think Kingpin works better with a fast scoring squad. Whereas I've seen people use like Omega Red, and certain characters which are quite slow moving, which work for like the potato side of things for Kingpin, of just sitting on a point, but because they can't move around the board very easily, yeah, I think that's probably another mistake I see people make.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I think activation order is definitely one of those important things that comes with every affiliation. But I think with Kingpin, if you get it wrong, you can be punished a lot more,
100%, yeah.
especially with this style of play it's going for. I think it's definitely trying to play the game fast, and if you slow your game down too much, it can affect you.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, we've got another few questions from John in not yourself, John, another John in our Discord. He asked, how can you make Kingpin lists more engaging and interactive for players? Obviously, both from the point of view of yourself and from the opponent.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I think, especially, I mean, it might be the same everywhere, but especially in the English meta, certain people really, really detest playing against Kingpin and find it very boring. Um, so I think taking characters like Klaw and like M.O.D.O.K and certain characters like that, which engage a lot more in the game, definitely help. Because a lot of the time it can just be walk, walk, throw, or just walk, war stand, walk, steal, place kind of movements and stuff. And I've definitely had games before where I've not actually done a single attack into my opponent and just won quite comfortably. So in that aspect, I can see why it's quite, problematic, and it can be quite boring to play against. Um, so yeah, I think you just have to sort of take more characters that don't just necessarily walk walk, and like characters which work for it a bit more, like roll dice and push people off points, and like Ulik would be quite fun with that. Um, but yeah, I guess it really depends what you want out of a game. Yeah, I've played games before where it's been like a Kingpin mirror match, but I've really gotten with my opponent. So even though we're both just walking, like it's been fun because we've both been like engaging with each other and like talking to each other and stuff. So yeah, I think certain games, just communicating with your actual opponent a bit more, can feel a lot less boring, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. Another question John's got is, specifically characters you're not taking at the moment, which Criminal Syndicate characters would you like to see changes on?
Oh, that's a good one. Um, I mean, I'd love to see Mysterio go to medium move, which we might see in the future. We might not. Who knows? That'd be really good. Um, so yeah, I'd like to see that. Um, Crossbones, like OG Crossbones, I'd love to see changed. Because he's not, he's not the best in the slightest. So that'd be nice to see him change. Just trying to think of the other criminals. Should have done my homework, shouldn't I?
There's a lot of them, to be fair.
Yeah, Electra, I'd like to see change. It'd be nice to see her not actually have a spender which is like range one. Even if they change that just to range two, it just feel much better. And I mean, they changed her a little bit where she gets power a bit easier, but she still really, really struggles. So yeah, I'd like to see her get changed. Um, who else? I'd like to see Omega Red get changed as well. I'd like to see him get, turn into a medium move. I don't know if that would make him busted or not. I've never obviously tried moving him about like that. But yeah, I think there's some fun stuff you can do with Crimson, which I was doing with Hydra, where you can just make a whole team that can give out poison quite comfortably. So him, like Omega Red and Abomination together, can be really, really strong. Um, that's probably it, really. Obviously, I'd like to see Sandman become a little bit better because he's very niche with his grunts and stuff. But yeah, I think they're probably the ones that I'd want changing the most.
Awesome. And then the last question from John is: given the strength and depth of Criminal Syndicate and how good Kingpin is on non-pay to flips, why do you think Criminal Syndicate don't take more of it event wins? I know Adepticon. Obviously, we've had a Criminal Syndicate win at the weekend, but that's probably the only notable one we've had in recent period.
What about Island?
There is that one. Yes, I was ignoring that one because we've covered that one.
Yeah,
But
I
I
was
suppose in that weekend we obviously had a lot of Criminal Syndicate wins.
yeah,
But other than that, I can't think of another big event recently where we've had the Criminal Syndicate kind of taking it down, like a
yeah.
32-man event plus.
No, you're completely right. I was only messing then, but yeah, you're completely right. And I think the main reason for that is Criminal Syndicate are very, very strong. There's no denying that. Um, but obviously, you can't like in certain events you can't choose who you're going against, and if you go against a super heavy attrition team, and you get on their secures, so say for argument's sake, um, you got put up against Adam Warlock's Guardians, and you pull out like Deadly Meteors, like they win Prio, they pick their secures, you get Deadly Meteors and Intrusions out. Like as a Kingpin team, it would be very, very hard to win them certain matchups against an Adam Warlock team that can just like go through you like a knife like through butter. So yeah, I don't think Kingpin's got too much of a success rate against the pure attrition if they get their secures, which is probably why we don't see Kingpin win as many events as potentially he should.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think that's true for quite a few affiliations, to be fair, where they've got a lot of punch to them, but they have one affiliation that is their, I don't want to say kryptonite, but really takes into them well and often kind of stops them winning events all the time, but they're always there or thereabouts. So I
Yeah,
suppose like affiliations like Webs, like Midnight Suns, like they're there, they're very, very close to being Apocalypse and Inhumans, but they just have that one matchup that kind of stops them winning a game.
yeah, I completely agree. And like Wakanda against Crimson can be quite a bad matchup because King T'Challa can just go through your team quite comfortably, um, which is another reason why Loki was one of my, when I was thinking of what I could do against Wakanda, Loki was good because he can counter King T quite well. You just have to, well, it's a bit of a hope really. It's not not much of a counter. It's just a bit of a hope of just hoping he rolls lots of skulls when he attacks you. But again, like like Inhumans, Wakanda, Apocalypse, Guardians, Midnight Suns with Hulk, Strange Defenders, Mighty Avengers. There's lots of heavily attrition teams out there which Kingpin does struggle against. As I said, especially if you lose Prio and you get put on their secures, it can feel quite a bad time for you. So yeah, I think that's probably one of the reasons why we don't see Kingpin Crimson win many events.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Onto another question from Tom in the GG Discord. What tricks and tips would you give to someone that's not familiar playing against Kingpin on how to beat him? I know this is kind of giving away the secret sauce, but is there things that people should be looking at to try and win games against Kingpin, especially with affiliations that you haven't mentioned?
Yeah, I think the best thing you can do is just run in the corner and just walk away. That's a perfect thing to beat Kingpin.
I heard that one works really well.
Yeah, that's it. No, I think as I said a bit earlier, I think you want to go on par with the characters they take, or even go a bit wider than them. And I think you need to bring certain characters like Moondragon, like Strange, Enchantress is another one, Professor X, like Cassandra Nova, Sentinel. Like there's loads of characters which have got displacement that Kingpin hates. Like it's quite funny, like the world we live in at the moment, where like Sentinels is one of the worst matchups for Kingpin, just because Prime, both the other Sentinels and Cassandra Nova can just move Kingpin off points really, really comfortably. So I think there's two main ways of beating Kingpin. It's having teams that can really push and control Kingpin's team. Um, I mean, I used to do it with Wakanda, where if I went against Kingpin, this is OG Wakanda when I used to like run OG Panther, Shuri, and characters like that. I'd just wait until a Kingpin character, like a Criminal Syndicate character, is activated, and then I'd go with another character, move on to their point, and push them off. And I think that's like a very good way of beating them. Another good way is just to throw dice at them and just get every single character on their flip side, because as soon as Kingpin's team are injured, they don't really cause too much of a threat to you, and you can just win on points. So, yeah, I think either control them or get them on their injured sides the two best ways of beating Kingpin.
Makes a lot of sense. So kind of moving on to some of the questions from the Criminal Syndicate chat on the fan server. One question that was asked was, if the new Crisis set is slower, what do you think changes for Kingpin? And likewise, if it turns more of a brawly kind of scenario set, what do you think changes for Kingpin?
Yeah, so I think Kingpin will struggle a lot if it gets slower scoring. As I said before, the way to beat Kingpin is just to daze everyone on his team, and the slower the scoring, the quicker you get to do that, and he can't score out as quick. So yeah, I think he will struggle a lot. I've been trying to make a kill pin team, which I've started calling it, where I had Blue Marvel and other characters in there, and I was sort of trying out having like an attrition focused Kingpin team, which I think if it goes slower scoring will be the only sort of way that you win them games. So you have to bring like characters that can hit hard, and you go a bit taller than your opponent, but because you're still counting as two, you still keep up on the score. Just means it's obviously slower scoring, so you need just to take like really tanky, heavy attrition teams. Um, But yeah, I think that's probably the only way. Um, or it'll be a case that it doesn't work with Kingpin and you sort of look elsewhere, whether that's to M.O.D.O.K, whether that's to Shadowland, or yeah, I would hate to say obviously look away from Criminal Syndicate because they've got other good leaders, but yeah, I think Kingpin will struggle if it gets a lot slower scoring.
On what the new crisis set will be. Um, I know you and I have both chatted about where we think it's going to go. So we'll have to see what AMG have kind of cooked up for us. I think it'll be really interesting. It will shake the meta up for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Another question that they asked was, what's your thoughts on solo Kingpin versus duels? So they've specifically mentioned Shadowland Daredevil, Foes, Dormammu, and Defenders. Do you think any of those kind of duels interest you? Especially if the kind of Crisis Pack changes the kind of playstyle of Kingpin.
Yeah, I think as I said, we've had Mike DeLuca and Jacob Deaton doing really well with having a criminal defender duel, and yeah, as I said, Nathan, who won it, I believe had a duel as well. But yeah, I think it does work well having a duel with Kingpin. As I said, it's not necessarily, you don't have to have a duel with him. As I said, I quite like having M.O.D.O.K there because I quite like to keep it like Criminal Syndicate only. But yeah, I think Shadowland, as I said before, I think he struggles to find a list that him and Kingpin like. Maybe Hood is a good option to have as like an in between point because again, like Hood's got rapid fire, but Hood also heals, so Hood would be okay with Kingpin. I just think it's not as tanky as Kingpin likes. Um, Dormammu's an interesting one. I feel like Dormammu you can probably get away with if you've got like Dormammu, Red Skull 2, and Zemo. Like if you've got them three in your list, you could probably make a nice dual list with Dormammu. But yeah, I've never played Dormammu, and it doesn't really interest me too much Dormammu. But again, you can make a decent list there. Foes is another good one, which works quite well. We won't talk about Lizard because it upsets me that Lizard is not a Criminal Syndicate, but obviously the majority of foes are both foes and Crimson. So again, that works well. The only thing is, I think with foes is, again, I think if you're going Green Goblin, you want characters that hit hard. So that's not really a Kingpin list. And I feel like if you're going Doc Ock leadership, you're practically doing the same sort of like control as Kingpin. So you'd probably end up just going Kingpin anyway, unless you're taking Doc Ock on pay to flips. I don't see the point of taking both. And was there another one, or did you say Web Warriors? Did you or
Defenders was the other one.
oh yeah, Defenders, yeah.
Because obviously Echo's the kind of connector between that.
Yeah, and Taskmaster's obviously you can have Taskmaster there as well. But yeah, as I said, it was interesting to see the American teams, the American guys doing really well with that dual list. So it's definitely something to look out for. Yeah, I'm quite happy just with M.O.D.O.K as the leader, extra leader, and obviously Klaw, but you never take Klaw's leadership.
That makes a lot of sense. So I think we've answered all the questions we've had. Is there anything else you want to say about the list, the event, kind of anything we've covered on this week's podcast?
Yeah, it was just as I said before, like if you ever get a chance to go to one of the Irish events, especially Rory's events, like definitely do it. Um, it's very easy to fly into Shannon, and it's only I think it's like a 30-40 minute journey from there to Kilmorey Lodge where he has his events in Limerick. So yeah, that's definitely worth doing. And yeah, the guys there are amazing. So yeah, it's 100% worth doing. The way he normally does it, he does a 5 round event on a Saturday and then a team event on a Sunday. So it's you're getting a really good weekend of MCP. So yeah, and then yeah, I was just, as I said, just very happy that I ended up winning the whole thing. Played against some really good opponents, and yeah, they were just a great bunch of lads, really.
Sounds good. So I suppose we'll call it there. Thanks again, John, for going through your kind of experiences with Kingpin. I think it's been really insightful for everybody listening. At least I hope so. I've definitely learned a lot.
Brilliant, thank you so much, mate. And yeah, hopefully no one's too bored of listening to me talk about the move plays too much. But yeah, thanks so much.
Wouldn't be a Kingpin podcast without it being a little bit move throw.
Exactly, mate. That's it, mate.
Well, thank you all for listening. I hope you're still awake with us. If you do want to get in touch with us, the best way is to join our Discord, which is linked down in the description below. Also, you can reach out to us by direct message on Discord. Our Discord handles are included down below as well. So if you are after us, drop us a message, and we hope to see you on the Discord soon. Thanks
Cheers,
all.
guys.